Good morning and welcome. My name is Autumn Graves. I'm the head of school here, and it is a privilege to be able to bring you all together today in our celebration of three incredible human beings who truly have shaped our school. Henry Adams stated, "Teachers attain a kind of immortality because it is impossible to know when or if their influence stops." This morning we gather to tell three women that her influence has not stopped. I believe it's critical for us to show those we respect and love that we appreciate their impact on our lives and the lives of our girls and the lives of us as colleagues. We need to show our gratitude when the one we love is alive to hear our admiration. I don't think it counts at their funeral. Seeing GPS's value of tradition and history, I created this space in our reunion programming about 5 years ago. I believe in holding some of our faculty within our fold in this space of foreverness. And I ask those of you who are here today who have been inducted into our Faculty Emeriti program, would you please stand? Today, our former colleagues will be joined by three women. They're beyond just being an employee of GPS, because their influence and presence still reverberates through our classrooms and in the hearts and minds of our students. And this reverberation continues long after their departure. Teachers and staff for this purpose are defined as faculty. This designation is reserved for those who gave a significant number of years of their professional careers to the girls of the GPS. And for at least 2 generations, for us that's 14 years. And these are three women, or all of our inductees are people who have retired from the profession of teaching. Because of GPS's rich teaching history, men and women who have been retired for many years, I hope, see this as a way for us to truly show that we love you, we respect you, and we are so internally grateful to you. This morning, I believe that we are honoring three women who our founders would have declared upon their retirement, "Job well done." And for a few of you here, you had some encounters with our founders to know they were women who probably did not give praise very often. So that idea of saying a job well done was probably their highest praise. For each honoree, I will share a bit about their GPS history, but the true influence of their lives' work will be illustrated by brief speeches delivered by one of their children or a past colleague, student, or friend. Our first honoree is both a GPS and Chattanooga legend, Ricky Pierce. While working as an English professor and an assistant to the chancellor at UTC, Ricky was summoned by GPS headmaster Dr. Nat Hughes to meet him at a nearby Shoney's. His plan was to steal Ricky away from UTC and offer her a job at GPS. But she turned him down. After several covert backroom meetings at Shoney's, I'm not quite sure where that is in the Shoney's, he convinced Ricky to come to GPS, and we are forever grateful for his persistence. Ricky served as associate head of GPS and principal of upper school from 1982 until 2010. Upon retirement, she spent 2 years as the GPS historian. She holds a bachelor's degree from the University of Chattanooga and a Master of Arts in British and American Literature from Emory University. She also studied education administration at the University of Tennessee. During her GPS tenure, Ricky initiated a community service program and added a career and financial education focus to the curriculum. But she considers her greatest accomplishment the relationships she developed. Each year, she held several meetings with individual faculty and staff members and 2 one-on-one meetings with each upper school student, while seeking to affirm each girl and assist her in reaching her highest potential. While at GPS, Ricky planned and chaperoned 20 senior trips to Disney World. And having done that, that is a remarkable run of Disney trips. And she also chaperoned 22 trips to locations across Europe, collecting souvenir mugs along the way. She has held leadership positions on countless boards and organizations across Chattanooga and won honors and awards too numerous to mention. Most notably, she served as president of the Board of Girls, Inc., Kiwanis Club of Chattanooga, Chattanooga Sister City Association, the Chattanooga Red Cross, and Chattanooga Women's Leadership Institute. I think you can understand why I say she's also a legend in Chattanooga. She is currently on the board of Chattanooga Girls Leadership Academy, and among others, and teaches adult Sunday school classes at First Centenary United Methodist Church. She won the 2007 Athena Award from the Chattanooga Chamber of Commerce and the Tennessee Woman of Distinction and Chattanooga's Distinguished Service Awards in 2010. Ricky will be honored today by her daughter, Lynn Pierce Mulligan, class of 1984. Her words of love will be followed by Suzanne Smart, retired GPS teacher and fellow faculty emeriti member.
Good morning. One of the questions I am most frequently asked is, are you Ricky Pierce's daughter? I'm always proud to say, yes, I am. My mom has made such a huge impact on my life, and I know that her presence here at GPS has impacted the lives of many, many other girls and women over the 28 years that she's been here. In a world that's increasingly focused on social media and having social interactives with a device of some sort, my mom is the quintessential relationship person. And I was thinking about the best way to talk about her presence and how she made a difference at GPS. I decided that I could spend several days talking about all her many accomplishments and the lasting ways she impacted GPS. However, since I only have a few minutes, I want to focus on what really stands out about her relationships. My mom knows everyone. It's impossible to go out to dinner, or to a movie, or to a meeting, or really just to leave my house without running into someone who knows and admires her. My mom has never just been a teacher and an administrator. While academics and hard work are certainly important to her, her main focus during her time at GPS was building relationships with everyone. Students, their families, teachers, the cafeteria staff, the custodians, the coaches, the administrative staff, and anyone else who walked the halls of GPS. When students entered 9th grade, my mom always set aside a time to meet with each girl and her family so she could get to know each one as an individual. Every summer before school began, she invited the senior class to our house, where they would spend an evening planning their year, socializing with her and others, and decorating cat rat signs with glitter that we would find until at least Christmas. She spent every day of her years here greeting the girls by name when she passed them in the hall, counseling them when they had trouble with various aspects of their lives, giving inspiring talks, and asking them about their lives. I'm always amazed when she recognizes women 20 and 30 years later, and she knows what their jobs are now, asks about their children and their families, remembers details of their lives when they attended GPS. My mom and dad loved to travel, and they enjoyed sharing this passion with the GPS girls. One of the highlights for school breaks were her and my dad taking girls on trips, and they literally traveled all over the world with GPS girls, often giving them a glimpse of life into a different country and culture for the first time. The relationships that they built with these students was special to her, and it was an added bonus for the girls to get a glimpse of my mom outside the school walls. My parents have always been my biggest fans at any sort of event I have ever done, and my mom often planned her afternoons and weekends around school events to support the girls at GPS and their many activities too. She attended academic events, music programs, dance performances, and sporting events, always letting the girls know she was proud of them and interested in their hard work and accomplishments. She often found it hard to separate her personal time from her school time. One summer, we were vacationing in Jekyll Island. We were enjoying some time away. When we arrived at our hotel after dinner, we were surprised to find the entire GPS soccer team staying there during the summer camp that they were having on the island. My mom very graciously greeted everyone and spent time asking all about their summer and their practice before retreating to our room, bemoaning the fact that they had seen her in her beach attire with windblown hair. She's had special relationships with people that were in all different positions in the school, from the head of the school to administrative assistants, from teachers to workers in the cafeteria, from girls to custodians, getting to know them all and making each feel important and special and appreciated. GPS was and is a richer place because of my mom and the time and energy she invested in the girls she encountered while she was here. So if you've managed to make it this far in your life without having a relationship with Ricky Pierce, today is a good day to meet her because she is pretty awesome. My daughter was hopefully going to be here today. She's in college in Maryville and ended up having to spend the day running and working at an outdoor program she does there. But she really wanted to send something for me to read to her for her grand. So I'm going to read this bit that she sent. Some of my most vivid childhood memories come from spending time at GPS with Gran. Before it was my school, GPS was truly my own personal playground. My favorite thing was probably playing with the large bouncy balls in the dance studio and attempting to come up with various dances to do with Gran. She would patiently wait on me to come up with random movements to do in front of the big mirrors and laughed as I enjoyed running around the studio. Another special place for us was the library. When school was done for the day, we would go into the library and play hide and seek for hours. I would come up with a wide variety of hiding spots, and it was always exciting, but it took her a while to find me. It was always a special treat to get to run into her office and give her a hug, because I knew we were going to have a fun day ahead of us. Other than contributing to lots of laughter in relation to my earlier years at GPS, Gran has also helped me to embrace the love of learning, and particularly reading, for my entire life. I vividly remember her teaching me grammar as a small kid by creating a song that made it all really fun. I wish I could be here today to sing it to you all, and she suggests having my mom come up and sing the song for you. But since you're probably not going to do that, she said to tell you that it goes, a noun is a name of a person, place, or thing. A pronoun takes the place of a noun. A preposition is what you do to a chair or a tree. A verb shows action, yes sirree, like running or walking or skiing. Conjunction connects, interjection, wow, and so on and so forth. The lessons I learned through her immense knowledge in my time at GPS are things that I cherish to this day. My first class in English did not scare me to use basic grammar. It was something I already inherently knew from my time with Gran, and that helped me easily survive that class. I'm so blessed to have gotten the education I had at GPS, and I owe all of that to Gran. Looking back, I'm so thankful for all the opportunities she has given me throughout life. And I'm so happy to have such an intelligent, caring, and even though it is hidden the majority of the time, comical grandmother. I love you, Gran.
Thank you, Lynn. That was lovely. And we didn't compare notes, so we may have a few repeats here. Not lost on me, I am speaking on behalf of the best public speaker in the city, who famously hardly ever uses notes. Many have spoken on the bountiful accomplishments of Ricky Pierce, the programs that she has created, and the programs that she has guided, the organization she's built and improved citywide, regionally, and our beloved GPS. But I want to speak on the Ricky Pierce intangibles. The emotional contributions of spirit and unexpected gifts of the heart, and the sly sense of humor. I arrived in Ricky's office, 1998, for an interview 8 days before the semester began. I didn't want the job at GPS. I wasn't intending to take it if I was asked. And my devil-may-care attitude was sort of leading the way that day. Ricky asked at one point, "What would you do to rebuild our theater department?" She talked like that. What would you do to rebuild our theater department? Seeing an improv opportunity, I grabbed a sweater, threw it over my head, and morphed into a faux Russian drama teacher. I will have to make the little babushkas love me. I will have to make them love the life upon the stage in theater. I Russianed it, politically incorrect as improv off can be, and then returning the sweater to the chair, it hit me. That was her sweater. Uninvited, I had inhabited the personal belongings of the one and only Ricky Pierce. So, as the self-inflicted humiliation began, Ricky Pierce laughed, and then she hired me. Sly sense of humor. Little did I know then, Ricky had an expectation of excellence. She always assumed the best of others. She operated on that assumption, treated us as though we were all excellent. My first year, I still had a few educational management skills to learn. She quietly directed me to be better in a way that did not insult my delicate human dignity. Halfway through the first semester, as I was dismissing a particularly rambunctious study hall, Ricky was passing by and commented quietly and gently, "Suzanne, if you need some help, stop by my office." Then she grinned and said, "Study halls are not run by 7th graders." Thoughtful, spiritual leadership, kind, hilarious, and getting the job done, that's Ricky. Complimenting when deserved, correcting when you needed it, agreeing or disagreeing, but always with dignity and love. Civilizing the cat rat program that you were talking about, because I remember hearing about the hazing of the cat rats from the 70s. Anybody here remember that? It became the emotional, heart-strong Big Sister Mentor Program. And that's another gift that Ricky gave us. A fun, heartfelt, welcoming acceptance for rats and their rat parents. Under Ricky and Starlet's direction, the cat rat program morphed to positively and excitedly jumpstart the year with heart and spawned decades of close relationships. Now I'm going to have to take a sidebar here and tell you a story about Leah, since you mentioned Leah. One of my first years at GPS, I'm sitting in the bleachers in the gym waiting for Cat Rat Parade to start, and suddenly everybody gets very quiet because Ricky Pierce has made her entrance, and we know that means we're about to begin, and she has to stroll all the way from the door to the gym to the center where the microphone is, and we all get very quiet on cue. And right then, as Ricky is crossing all the way across, a 2-year-old Leah sitting next to Charles is going, "Gran, Gran, 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 Gran." And Ricky just grinned and went on. It was a precious America moment I will never forget. Now she's in college, having matriculated here. So these are some of the intangible things. Ricky, you later made a career mentor program that connected those same seniors that we're talking about from the Cat Rat to professionals in the community. Remember that? Lifelong relationships that our girls had with their mentors that they still cherish to this day. A far-reaching gift of the heart, again, from Ricky Pierce. You are an empathetic listener. You have foresight and understanding of stewardship. You are committed to the growth of people, the building of community, and the development of humanity. You modeled your heart for us. And in a life filled with love of learning and endless curiosity and consideration for others, you spent years being a teacher to teachers. The gifts of the heart that you taught us, to always deeply care for those following behind, to build up the younger ones, to catch and support our professional peers, to first assume the best of all in our orbit, whether they were children or adults, and to lovingly, kindly, and sometimes with quiet firmness about study halls, keep those in your care moving forward. You have graciously led and inspired students and faculty. You led us with love, and perhaps your most sterling quality is it was the sort of quiet service that did not expect recognition. Yet here we are today, recognizing a genius with the heart of a servant leader. Today's global world asks, What is required of us? The Micah Mandate gives a balanced spiritual answer to that question. Act justly, love mercy, walk humbly with your God. You did that at GPS, Ricky. You did that still every day. And we thank you, Ricky Pierce.
This is one of those moments we should have just passed out the tissues. As an eager 7th grader in 1953, Starlet Light Speakman followed her sister to GPS at the urging of a GPS alum who was a client of her father's, Mr. Light. Starlet would become the editor of both the Static and Kaleidoscope and determined very early on that one day she would return to GPS as a teacher. Starlet holds a Bachelor's of Arts degree from the University of Chattanooga and a Master of Education from the University of Tennessee at Chattanooga. She taught middle school English and Latin for 3 years before leaving GPS to start a family. In 1979, she returned to teach freshman English for a year, but then moved to what became her love, 7th grade English. She would remain there until 1986. 1986 marked the beginning of her tenure as a member of GPS's administration, and Starlet served as the principal of 7th and 8th grades. In 2006, she retired as head of middle school. In total, little Starlet Light served GPS for 32 years. From what I understand about Starlet, you really don't get a sense of who she is and the gifts that she's shared until you hear those little quips or those little stories about Starlet. So this morning, we've asked Starlet's daughter, Susan Speakman Jackson, class of 1986, if she would come and give us a glimpse into Starlet the mother. And then Christine Ben Smith, class of 72, will share a perspective on Starlet as the teacher, mentor, and cheerleader for girls.
Starlet, Charlotte as my dad calls her, Mom, Mimi. And most often recognized as Mrs. Speakman. If you know my mother, she loves many different things, but her tops are talking on the beach while sitting in the sun, talking while going for a walk, talking while finding a good deal shopping, and talking to her children and grandchildren. She also loves to read and then talk about it. Growing up, the 3 Speakman children spent a lot of time waiting for Mom to get off the phone, or waiting for Mom to finish talking with everyone in the grocery store, or waiting in the car for Mom to come out of whatever store she had gone into after threatening us not to get out of the car and not to fight with one another. No, we did not get out of the car, but yes, there was a lot of fighting. After my mother started teaching at GPS, the waiting time just seemed to get longer. We could not go anywhere, and I mean anywhere, without hearing, Mrs. Speakman, is that you? Even now, when she comes to Charleston or Winston-Salem, or really anywhere, you will hear, Mrs. Speakman, is that you? In 1949, Joanne, my mother's older sister, and her GPS, and my mother followed in 1953. A friend of her parents, Mrs. Mildred Montague, told my grandfather that he just had to send Joanne and Starlet to GPS, and that is how it all began. My mother thrived at GPS. She was a 7th grade class president. She joined many clubs and in later years was the editor of the school newspaper and the yearbook. Some of her fondest memories were of May Day, and back then she explains that all classes danced to May Day, and that in 7th grade she danced as a fairy, and that another year there was a dance that involved diagramming sentences. I'm not sure what that dance looked like, but I'm sure it was interesting to say the least. She did tell me that May Day was always exciting because boys from Macaulay and Baylor would come to watch. She graduated from GPS in 1959 and went on to the University of Tennessee at Chattanooga. She always tells us that she really wanted to go away to college, but her father would not let her, and we're glad for that. She graduated from UC, married my dad, and wanted to teach at GPS, but there were no positions available. So she taught Latin for 2 years at Red Bank Junior High. Mrs. Tucker, the GPS headmistress at the time, finally called and offered her a job teaching 7th grade English and 8th grade Latin. She taught for 3 years before taking off 11 years to raise a family. When I was in 6th grade, she returned to GPS and taught 9th grade English. No problem, I thought. She'll be in 9th grade in the upper school, and I'll be in 7th grade in the lower school. We will not see each other very much. Well, there I was in 7th grade trying to make new friends and fit in, and there was my mother teaching 7th grade English, giving Fridays and lots of homework to my new friends. Not to mention the fact that my cousin and I were both in her English class. We all survived. I learned grammar, mythology, and all about Johnny Tremaine, and my mother won over the 7th grade class. She was tough, but you knew she cared and would help as much as possible. Her classroom and later her office were always filled with girls on their free period coming to talk. I graduated in 1986 with the then headmaster, Nat Hughes. Randy Tucker came in as the new headmaster, and my mother graduated to middle school head. She served in this position for 20 years and retired in 2006. If you ask her what her greatest accomplishment at GPS was, she will tell you that getting the Learning Center started. She explains that she watched so many girls struggle for so many years, unable to get the extra help they needed. She went to Randy Tucker and said that something just had to be done to help these girls, and the Learning Center was started, and it continues to help these struggling students. My mother pours her whole heart into everything she does, and her job at GPS was no exception. She is a kind, generous, outgoing, engaging, caring, loving, patient, funny, curious, and godly woman that countless faculty, students, and graduates call teacher and friend, and I get to call mom.
I want to begin by thanking Mrs. Speakman for asking me to share my thoughts today as my mentor and my champion as she joins the ranks of Faculty Emeriti at GPS. Yes, she will always be Mrs. Speakman to me, even though I just got my Medicare card in the mail. What I hope is that she realizes I accepted this request because of my great respect for her as a daughter, sister, wife, mother, grandmother, alumna, educator, community volunteer, friend to many. We have 64 mutual friends on Facebook, and a woman of faith. However, I want to share I'm absolutely terrified to be standing here before you all. Well, I want you to know why I received this request. I immediately contacted her daughter Susan, and my fears came true. Did your mother correct your grammar? Her response was not at all soothing to me. Yes, at home, in the car, at the pool, at church, everywhere. You'll understand why my fear is so real for me. I came this short of asking the department chair of the University of Tennessee Chattanooga English Department to review my grammar in my remarks, but I decided, what the heck, I learned from the best, so here goes. I had Mrs. Speakman in the 7th grade for English and Greek mythology. We learned about routine things such as nouns, pronouns, verbs, adjectives, and adverbs, but we learned so much more. I'm sure you're thinking life lessons, dealing with relationships as adolescents, boys. Oh no. We learned about articles, prepositions, conjunctions, interjections, such as, help me, Rhonda. Then we learned about simple sentence structure, compound, complex, compound, complex, which are all complicated by independent and dependent clauses, gerunds, Falling monkeys are a danger in the rainforest. The gerund is formed when you put ing on a verb, and then it functions as a noun. Infinitives and participles, adding ed. And heaven forbid, another interjection, the dangling participle. Anyone who knows my relationship with Mrs. Speakman has heard my tale that during my entire 7th grade year, I did not ride home in carpool on Thursdays 1 week. I was in English help class every single week, right after school. And I believe I was the only one who was required to come every week. Other classmates flowed in and out as content became more difficult and left as they mastered the topic. I remained. Every single Thursday. After the session, I had to sit and wait for my father to pick me up from the girl port, which used to sit at the entrance to what is now the middle school. I never once thought of being in help class as a punishment, but more as an opportunity to learn from the kind teacher who only was there to support and help me be successful. She taught me that perseverance and effort would enable me to master grammar, something my graduate students in the nursing program at UTC have realized as they comment when their papers are returned with countless track changes, the 21st century red pen. Not for errors in pathophysiology, but for grammatical errors, which honestly drives me crazy. Starlet Speakman had my back. She knew her students and had their best interests in mind, something that continued for those countless numbers of students who came after me until she retired in 2006. On Fridays, we had mythology class. We learned about the gods and goddesses, both Greek and Roman, something I feel certain no one studies anymore unless it's a university level course. She gave us a vocabulary test each week in which we had to spell and then define the word. We read A Christmas Carol in the late fall just before December break, and in the spring we read Looking Through the Looking Glass and What Alice Found There. We were all required to recite from memory the Jabberwocky, each of us getting up one by one to recite it. At that time, my last name started with a B, so I was early in the rotation for recitation and didn't have the good fortune of hearing this 15 times before I had to get up. Oh, how I wanted my name to be Erin Yon for that one class. I wish Mrs. Speakman could have been a fly on the wall last June as the class of 1972 gathered for our unofficial reunion at the lake house of Hilda Smishrotter Murray. As we reminisced about our time and our teachers at GPS, Marilyn Doster Cato jumped up and started reciting that very poem, and we all joined in, laughing and reciting at the top of our lungs. Marilyn started, "'Twas brillig in the slithy toad, did gyre and gimble in the wave, all mimsy were the burrow groves and the mome wreaths outbrave." Then Carter Wells Kay jumped up and said, "Beware the Jabberwock, my son, the jaws that bite, the claws that catch. Beware the Jup-Jup bird and shun the frumious bandersnatch." Then Kathy Alt-Cash came in, and she said, "And he took his vorpal sword in hand. Long time the maxim foe sought he, so rested he by the tum-tum tree and stood a while in thought." And then Shannon Pittner showed up, and she said, "And as in uffish thought he stood, the Jabberwock, with eyes of flame, came whiffling through the Tolgi wood and burled as it came." And then came the last one, Lolly Ballard. 1, 2, 1, 2, and through, the vorpal blade went snicker-snack. He left it dead, and with his head he went galumphing back. And we all joined in at the end, including me, because I finally remembered it. "And hast thou slain the Jabberwock? Come to my arms, my beamish boy." And at 90 decibels, screaming with hysteria, we all said, "Oh, frabtious day, Calloo, Calais." He chortled in his joy. And then we all collapsed and laughed. Probably a lot of wine had something to do with it. Some things make an everlasting impression, Lewis Carroll and Starlet Speakman. As time went on and our paths did not cross until I returned to Chattanooga in 1982 and I became involved with the league, I walked into the headquarters for the first time and I saw many pictures of distinguished women, many in formal attire hanging in neat rows on the walls. My eye was drawn to a picture of a young woman in a pastel formal gown seated in a chair, leaning forward, holding something which I think might have been her glasses. Oh my goodness, interjection here. It's Mrs. Speakman. She'd been president of the Junior League from 1978 to 1979. During her years in the league, she was on many, many committees, ultimately serving as the top dog. And when she became a sustainer, she served as an advisor for the Jottings, the Community Research Committee, and most recently, serving on the Sustainer Advisory Committee. Again, she was guiding young women and serving as a mentor for a different generation, having their backs, leading by example, all with the organization's interest as her focus. Not to toot her own horn, I will toot it for her. I learned that in 1997, Mrs. Speakman was voted Best Mannered Teacher by the Junior Cotillion, an award that causes one to conjure up an image of a kind and properly white-gloved woman. But that's not how I see Mrs. Speakman. She is kind, but I don't see the white gloves. Only 7 years later, she shed the mantle of Best Mannered Teacher and was chosen to receive one of GPS's most prestigious awards, the Distinguished Alum. That's how I see her, distinguished and an alum. I suppose now that I have been asked to share my thoughts about this wonderfully unique role model, I might call her Starlet. It may come hard for me because unlike others who are much younger, calling Starlet Mrs. Speakman is my way of showing how much I respect her. She did not only impact my life, but there are many other women who join me as I say thank you, Mrs. Speakman, for being a positive influence in our lives. Faculty have said that as an administrator, you had their backs. You're a straight shooter and an excellent reader of people. So that I ask that you will never forget what you and I have shared together in the first place. I have a small token of appreciation that I would like you to accept as a reminder of a 12-year-old girl who needed support. You were filled with patience as that child diagrammed the same sentence on the chalkboard for the third, fourth, and most likely fifth time. You never once looked at your watch and were in a hurry. You supported me, and for that, I thank you. As a token of my appreciation.
There is only one role in a school that literally touches each girl and each family. There is only one role that creates the student body. And Debbie Bonner Young did that work with grace, humor, and an unbridled determination for success. Having grown up as a faculty kid at Macaulay, Debbie eventually came to this world of girls, and she graduated in 1979. Debbie obtained a Bachelor of Science degree in Physical Education from the University of Tennessee, and for this moment, maybe the only moment, you will hear me say, "Go Vols!" She later earned a master's degree from that same institution. She was inducted into the GPS Sports Hall of Fame for her incredible contributions to the school's volleyball, basketball, and track teams. Debbie taught PE from 1989 to 1993 and coached varsity and middle school volleyball as well as varsity track and field. Along with Peggy Michaels, she created the SHAPE program at the request of former headmaster Randy Tucker, who wanted a unique physical education program that connected to what the girls were learning in their core classes. She also served as a faculty sponsor for Young Life, Fellowship of Christian Athletes, and Student Council. After leaving GPS in 1993, Debbie returned just 2 years later to coach varsity volleyball and assist with the middle school team until the hiring of Paul Brock in 2000, when she stepped aside to serve as his assistant coach. Then in 2007, Debbie assumed the responsibilities of our Director of Admission, where she oversaw the admission process for literally thousands of applicants, until retiring this past December. She also started our Admission Ambassador Program initiative that allowed her to witness the growth and confidence in so many young women while being inspired by the unique story each girl brings to the ambassador experience. You may have noticed there are a couple of intermittent years when Debbie was not working at GPS. That was not because Debbie was just hanging out or on sabbatical. Those were the critical years she gave her full attention to her first worldly love, her boys, Carter and their sons. Debbie is one of the first GPS employees I ever met. She actually served on the search committee for the head of school. Her love for GPS and our girls would often leave her speechless in her attempts to articulate her passion for this place and for the people who love it. But you quickly see the impact of GPS on Debbie with her intense cheering at sporting events and the tears in her eyes at commencement and opening day chapel. And I miss you a lot. I miss you sitting at the head of the table in our admin team meetings. I miss you sitting in the corner at faculty staff meetings. I miss seeing you sit in the back of meetings and watching everyone and getting a sense of the pulse of this community. And William and I miss coming to visit you in the evenings while you continue to pore over financial aid forms, trying to figure out how it's going to work for a family because you believe in that girl. And I miss watching you practice your grandparenting skills far ahead of when you all need to do that. I know that Team Graves appreciates and admires you for being a godly woman who is just so damn determined to win. For us to get a different glimpse into Debbie's love for GPS and her influence on this community, her son Wes will come forward and speak. And I'm very curious as to what he has to say, since I've enjoyed over the years hearing Debbie's perspective of what happens at your house. And her classmate, Carol Killebrew, will come forward to share some stories about Debbie, the girl, as well as the teacher.
She's always been.
I am a much better warm-up act, so this is why I'm here. I am honored to speak today in tribute and in gratitude to Debbie Bonner Young, the second person ever to be honored in both the GPS Athletic Hall of Fame and the Faculty Emeriti Recognition Ceremony. The only other person who possesses these two honors is Peggy Evans Thomas, someone who is very near and dear to our hearts. So Bonnie, you're in good company. Debbie Bonner and I are classmates, but we were not friends in high school. So let me explain. I arrived in the 7th grade, Debbie arrived in the 10th. Debbie was a varsity athlete. I played intramurals. Debbie's brothers went to Macaulay. My brothers went to Baylor. Debbie spent her spring breaks in Sanibel. I spent mine in Pompano. This last fact may explain why we're not friends. The class of 79 is laughing at that. And I would like to publicly correct a falsehood that Debbie has been known to repeat about me. Debbie lived on Macaulay's campus, and she will say that when she arrived in the 10th grade at GPS, that I gave her 2 weeks to invite me over to spend the night, and when she didn't, I wrote her off completely. I am confident I did not give her that much time. My friendship with Debbie Bonner Young is one of my most precious possessions. Because of our returning to work at GPS, we were able to reconnect, become lifelong friends, and create far more memories than we would have in 3 years in high school. This isn't to say it's been smoother without adventure. Debbie stood in for me as an assistant coach during a soccer state playoff in Nashville. At the time, Debbie didn't know anything about soccer except that it took a very long time to score. She didn't know the rules, she didn't know the positions, but she did know every player's name, and she was the team's cheerleader through regulation, 2 overtimes, and 2 sets of penalty kicks. And it was cold, and Debbie hates being cold. She did not have to take on this responsibility, but when she heard there was a need, she was the first to step in. And she does things like this because she cares. On December 29, 1992, Debbie left a message on my answering machine letting me know she was thinking of me that day. My father had passed away exactly a year earlier, and I asked her how she remembered that specific date. Debbie told me that she kept a calendar of dates for all those important markers that had impacted someone's life, simply so that she could take a moment and send positive thoughts and love their way. She was a person who called me when English teacher Mildred Peters died, and she was the one with whom I rode to Nashville to see our dear classmate Donna Carden Dalton when her husband passed away. She was also the one when I went with to Susan Lance Crownover's wedding. We were both waiting for the music to start, so naturally we were talking in the pew until we got the instrumental cue. The wedding was at the Church of Christ, and little did we know there is no instrumental cue at the Church of Christ. So we continued to talk as the wedding party started walking down the aisle. Debbie is the mother of 3 wonderful young men, no pun intended, and while most parents were teaching their children traditional nursery rhymes, Debbie taught her boys Born on a Riverbank, raised on I think I remember a story of her driving past the other school when one of her sons stated with no prompting, better off dead than living. I pulled out our senior yearbook and our collection of chapel tots, which is here. I had to show both of them because they all still keep these, to remind me who Debbie Bonner was 40 years ago when I really didn't know her. Her senior quote is about love and loving people, and it's just a little too emotional. So instead, I will share something from her chapel talk in which she quoted Vince Lombardi's essay, Winning. I believe in God, and I believe in human decency. But I firmly believe that any man's finest hour, his greatest fulfillment to all he holds dear, is that moment when he has worked his heart out in a good cause and lies exhausted on the battlefield, victorious. Debbie, I know you must be exhausted, but you are without a doubt victorious. And now I turn this over to her son, Wes.
I think they saved the worst for last, but here we go. Queens, We Are the Champions was blaring through the speakers of the Murphy Center on the campus of Middle Tennessee State University following the end of the 2000 TSSAA State Volleyball Championship game. I would provide you my own rendition, but I will spare you for your benefit and the sake of my embarrassment. Celebrating this victory was one of my earliest and fondest memories of GPS. For those of you who do not know, my mom was a coach on this team. But most importantly, this song represents who my mom is. She is a champion of her faith, family, and GPS. A champion of her faith. This is my mom's foundation and a springboard to my 2 points that will follow. In Luke 22:27, Jesus' words sum up my mom. For who is the greater, one who reclines at table or one who serves? But I am among you as the one who serves. My mom serves others because Christ first served us. She selflessly gives at the expense of herself by often sacrificing much of her day to accomplish all she puts on her plate. Following my mom's retirement at the end of last year, she sent a text message to our group family thread offering to pick up a prescription for my younger brother, Jack. His response, but I like how you can run my errands now. This was quite a change, as mom's commitment to GPS would sometimes prevent her from making those offers. But now with her adjustment to retirement, she is serving family and friends in new and different ways. A champion of her family. My mom is a sister to her 2 brothers, a wife to my dad, and a mom to me and my 2 younger brothers. Let's just say, outside of her mother, she is way outnumbered by the male members of the family. But she has graciously served us men, or probably better defined most of the time, boys, well. I can only guess that this must have been part of the reason she worked at GPS for so many years. She needed the female social interaction and, dare I say, an escape from all of us. I can't speak to Mom as a sister or wife, but I can too as a mom. I could spend the entire morning describing all Mom would do for us or taught us, but I'll briefly touch on one. Mom left us each morning with an acronym she strives to live each day by. MAD, which stands for Make a Difference Somewhere Today. The goal was, no matter how small or big, to make an impact on someone or something that day. And it is something I still remind myself of to this day. A champion of GPS. Mom has spent many years at GPS, roughly 18 years to be exact. 3 years as a student, 3 years as a teacher and coach, and 12 years in admissions. Mom loved and still loves GPS well. Look no further than her desire to beat Baylor in literally anything. She can argue the importance and benefits of a single-sex education and the impact it has had on many girls' lives, etc. But most importantly, she has been a champion of GPS by loving the people of GPS. When I would come visit and be introduced to a faculty member, staff, or student, Mom would always have a special story about them, or something to remember them by. It didn't matter if it was the head of school, a lifelong or brand new teacher, a senior or 6th grader, or a weekend security guard. Mom tried to make sure everyone understood they were known and appreciated. It also made me feel like I had a unique connection to each and every person here. This is an exciting day to celebrate my mom, and if you know her, being celebrated is what she least desires. She avoids public recognition at all costs. I'm thrilled to see that the champion mindset my mom brings to all aspects of her life is acknowledged with this honor. Mom, we all love you.
One of the things that I was able to quickly figure out when I arrived here, particularly because of conversations I had with Debbie, is that this is a school where each girl is known and loved. And what's so clear, I think, to each person in this room is that Ricky, Starlet, and Debbie valued that. You understood how important it is for each girl to be known and to be loved for who she is and for who she will become. I would ask for each of you to please join me next to an easel. We will be clear as to help you get to the right easel. So I can help just stand up here, we'll get you organized in a moment. But we have for you a gift to commemorate today, which is a piece of student art that we hope that you will cherish. And whenever you have moments where you, I don't know, wonder and think about what happened back in the day, or does it really all matter, I hope that this piece of art helps you to always remember you are known and loved, and you matter. So ladies, please join me.
We're going to have like a dramatic unveiling. All right, Debbie, right here. Starlet. All right, Ricky. these three incredible champions.
Please feel free to continue to mingle and to enjoy this celebration. I know that some of us need to make our way over to the town hall meeting. So if you are one of those folks, please make your way there. But thank you all for coming and being involved today.
I guess. All right.